Welcome everyone! We are now live on the UBC Learning Circle. We wanted to welcome you and welcome Kim Lawson, who is our presenter today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the UBC Learning Circle before we begin, and that we are based out of the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health, which is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We are generously funded by the First Nations Health Authority, so thank you, FNHA. We have dual participation today. We have you webinar participants and also video conference participants, which is helped by the eHealth team at FNHA. We are a program featuring workshops on the First Nations physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional health and wellness. We prioritize First Nations knowledge sharing amongst health professionals, community members, elders, students, and youth. For myself, I am Aurelia Kinslow. I am the facilitator and education coordinator for the UBC Learning Circle, and I'm also a PhD candidate in the Faculty of Education at UBC. My background is Cherokee, Choctaw, African American, and Scandinavian. And again, joining us today is Kim Lawson. Welcome, Kim. We're very happy to have you here. Kim is from the Xwi7xwa Nation of BC. I'm sorry for mispronouncing. Prior to joining UBC, she worked as an archivist librarian for the Union of BC Indian Chiefs Resource Center. Her Master of Library Science research looked at First Nations perspectives on archives, libraries, and museums. Would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself, Kim?
Thanks, Aurelia, and thanks for the invitation. And I'm pretty shy, and I've got a soft voice, and I'm usually good in presentations, but please do let us know if you have trouble hearing me. Thanks everyone for joining us. I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to hearing about some of your research challenges as well. So my home community is Bala Bala in the Xwi7xwa Nation from BC, and I've got British and Danish ancestry on my mom's side. So little coastal European heritage in common.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So herring is a strong connection across both sides of my family.
Nice.
Fish is so important.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was really lucky to work with a lot of community researchers when I was at the UBCIC Resource Center, and people may not realize, but UBC is a library that's open to the public as well as students and faculty here. So if anyone has been reluctant about going to a large university or a college library, please know that you're welcome there.
Thank you. Well, we can take a moment also to hear from the participants. We would love to hear where you're from, and a quick hello from you. We can use the chat box for that. Let's skip the Q&A. There's a Q&A box as well. Let's not use that one. Let's use the chat function. You can enter your messages directly, press send. Make sure it's going to all participants if that option is available. Look forward to seeing where you're from. We always get some really diverse participants, like Haida Nations, some people from out of province. It's really exciting. Give them a minute for that.
Sounds good. While we're giving people a little bit of time to say hellos in the chat box, I can tell you that Xwi7xwa acknowledges in our public presentations that we are grateful to be located on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Hunkaminam-speaking Musqueam people. And we acknowledge the elders that were very important for the development, the creation of the Longhouse at UBC that Xwi7xwa is a part of. The Longhouse was, the architecture for the Longhouse was inspired by Musqueam traditional architecture, and Xwi7xwa's architecture is inspired by traditional interior architecture. So our building is based on traditional pit house architecture, and I'm not really comfortable with pit house but there are many other Indigenous language names for it. So our name Xwi7xwa means echo, and it was a gift from Chief Simon Baker, Chief Kutlachah, and it's inspiring for us at Xwi7xwa in that our collections and our services echo Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous perspectives. And community research is an integral part of our collection, as well as academic research and creative expression, literature, poetry, and filmmaking.
Thank you for your introductions. Got Royal Roads University in Victoria. Thanks. Anyone else, feel free to chime in, just type away.
So I guess if that's all the introductions people are interested in, maybe we can get started.
Yeah, let's get started. They're streaming in, and it takes a minute sometimes, but yeah.
Okay.
Someone on Vancouver campus.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's so many fantastic networks of people interested in Indigenous health, and it would be great to see how we can support them.
Yeah. All right. So shall we go to the first slide?
Sounds good. So, as well as acknowledging that Xwi7xwa itself is on traditional Musqueam territory, I generally acknowledge that UBC's other biggest campus is on the traditional territory of the Okanagan Nation Alliance. And we know that there are other places that UBC folks work, and those community connections are so important. So today there are really two areas that I'd like to cover, so I'd love feedback on what would be most useful for you. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is really where you can connect to get the information that you're looking for, particularly for people who aren't close to UBC Vancouver, UBC Okanagan, where you can look to get information where you're at and what you can get remotely over the internet. The other main part that I'd like to spend time on is some specialized resources for health information. There's a wonderful resource for health librarians that I want to share with people and show you where to find some health portals and some other research guides.
Excellent, thank you.
And this is a picture of Heiltsuk territory on my way home to Bella Bella last fall.
Wow. In marshland? Or is that an estuary?
Very coastal.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And again, I'd just like to say that you're welcome at Xwi7xwa. It is not at all just for UBC folks. And if you are connected to UBC, we would love to hear what you're doing as well. So we've got a pretty small space, and our collection is now housed in our archives, our open area, and a couple of other places on campus at UBC. So it may be a little harder to get your hands on material from our library, but it means that we are more closely connected to the rest of campus, and it's given us an ability to grow differently. And our website is xwi7xwa.library.ubc.ca. So I'm going to open that up. So from our website you can find out a little bit more about us.
I'll share the link with the webinar participants as well.
Great. Thank you.
Feel free to access that and take a look.
And I'll be talking more about the open content and the research guides later on.
I just want to do a quick sound check to make sure that you can hear us well. Kim and I both speak rather softly, so if you would like to just let us know that it's A-okay. If you want us to turn up the volume, let us know, or you can also turn up the volume on your end as well if you need to. If there's any issue, just let us know.
So, from an Indigenous perspective in so many ways, part of the challenge is that documenting and researching indigeneity, Indigenous experience, and Indigenous knowledge has been disruptive and has not supported and respected traditional ways of developing knowledge and supporting it. So one of the things that we're aware of at Xwi7xwa is that we want to acknowledge where traditional expertise is coming from. And for a lot of the people that I talk to, that I help from Xwi7xwa, we need to use a range of different terms to search for these identities and these presence and this aspect of authorship when you're looking for Indigenous research. So I've just put a few terms up here as a bit of a reminder that to let you know that at Xwi7xwa we acknowledge that this is a challenging aspect of using libraries to research things like Indigenous health. One of the ways that libraries can support this is with information in our collections about supporting research in terms of critical ways of looking at interviewing methodologies and other aspects of research. And we have a lot of books and films that have named elders and what they share with the people they work with and material they've written themselves. In terms of connecting to libraries and finding the information and the research that you're interested in, everyone is welcome to come to Xwi7xwa and use the materials in our collection. And additionally, UBC alumni can get a card that lets them borrow our print collections, our books, for free. And people who come to campus at UBC can use a lot of our databases. So it's something that we negotiate for when we pay for databases that have a lot of articles in them. The databases can be extremely expensive, and we have a lot that aren't available at public libraries. So for most of them, we include in our license, in what we pay for, the rights for anyone to walk in and use it here on campus.
Oh wow! So other libraries on campus don't have that same service?
All of the UBC libraries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Most academic libraries do that as well. So it's one of the principles of librarianship that we do try to provide information to everyone. And one of the things we advocate for is equitable access. And people are very concerned about challenges in remote communities. We can show the links to that. As something new at UBC is that we've got a version of our community library card specifically for Aboriginal people, for anyone who lives in Canada. So on the UBC website we've got information about how to apply for that card.
Another thing about librarians, they're very good with technology. Because I do things on that computer that I don't.
I'll just make that larger. So for people who aren't students or faculty or staff at UBC, library.ubc.ca will give you a bunch of links to get information about borrowing from UBC and using the collection here. So how to get a library card is one of the places to start with. So for people who aren't alumni or Indigenous, the fee for a year's community card to borrow our books is $120. So there's information on the next tab for Aboriginal individuals in Canada. So the information and the contact information are here. And for students and faculty at other post-secondary institutions, at colleges or universities, there's also reciprocal borrowing. So you can use your library card from your own college or university to come and get a card from UBC. And I don't know why I made that smaller. This is a different laptop, so apologies for people who can't read the details. There's more information on the other tabs on this page for anyone looking to follow up on those details.
And we will send you all of these links also following the session. And you also have access to a video of this session also after, so you're able to review the information.
And one of the links we'll send you is a list of the public libraries in British Columbia. So the public libraries and the university and college libraries work together, and you can borrow from academic libraries through your public library. So some have a nominal fee, and many don't, and sometimes it's the lending library that'll charge a fee to the public library. But it's usually a pretty small amount, and compared to what it would cost you to travel to Vancouver or to another library, it's fairly cost effective. And if that system doesn't work for you, please let us know. So we'll send the link for both that list and the maps.
And I've been sending them in the chat box, so please look at the chat for all the new links as we mention them. Next, the map.
And one of the things I wanted to show you on this map in particular is the red along the coast is the Vancouver Island Regional Library. So this is the library that supports Bella Bella, one of the public libraries that supports Bella Bella. And people at home, and I've shown this to researchers from other places along the coast, you can contact them by email to get a card to set up for a books by mail service. So I think I've got a tab for that later on.
Just want to ask everyone, did you know about these services, or were you aware of the books by mail and the ways that your various library cards could be used in the systems that Kim is mentioning? Yeah, some people did not know about these. Yeah, people didn't know. So this is really valuable information.
Great. I think it's something that people who've gone to a few different universities or who've worked with researchers from a few different places are more likely to know. But perhaps libraries aren't doing as good a job as we could to let people know. So I find that when I'm talking to people from outside of Vancouver, they're really often surprised that they've got more options for getting their hands on information. I've included a link to the Prince Rupert Library to show you a couple examples from outside of Vancouver.
Okay.
And one of the things I love that they mention right off, that a number of the neighboring communities are included and get free library cards. And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that most public library policies only included people in the local municipalities, and reserves, for the most part, were excluded. So it's probably been several years now that that's shifted, but probably about 10 years ago that was much more unusual. So for people, if you've asked for a library card before and been told you're not eligible because of where you live, try again.
Okay.
And if you're having challenges, please let me know, and I'm happy to talk to some of my colleagues and see if there's something better we can find for you. So most libraries will ask for ID with an address. That's pretty usual getting a library card. And most include status cards specifically as one of the IDs they accept.
Right.
And I love the halibut design that they've used on their library cards.
So is everyone getting the links I'm sending you while we're chatting about this? We have quite a few links to share, so that's why we're doing it this way, so that you can be in control of taking a look at the pages if you want to keep it up and look at it.
Or bookmark any.
Bookmark any, exactly.
Yeah.
And we will send them again as all together after, but just as we go, if you want to just click on them and see. Yeah, people are having no problem with that, so that's great.
Great.
We had one person saying that they're from a remote, isolated island in the Alert Bay.
Excellent.
And this is very valuable information for people back home, too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I've actually got a link coming up to the Alert Bay Library and Museum.
Oh, excellent. Well, that would be nice.
Welcome. I'm very glad you're with us. And for people in remote communities, one of the great things that changed provincially a while ago is the government developed the BC1 card. So if you've got a library card from Alert Bay and you're going to be in Vancouver for a while, you can use your Alert Bay card to get a Vancouver Public Library card and use their databases and borrow from their library. And you can return them to your own library home as well.
Wow.
So there's a little information about it here on the Prince Rupert library card page, and there'll be the same information on most public libraries, and we have a link, I hope, to it. Oh, here's the link for books by mail for Vancouver Island.
Okay. I'll send them this.
And
There you go. I'm really impressed at what a great network this is. I mean, it's really excellent the way they've thought about connecting the systems.
Definitely. And one of the ethics of public libraries, or libraries in general, is that it's about sharing. So one of the first nicknames for public libraries was Every Man's University. So it's a very very historic term. You don't hear it very often anymore. But the intent is still there. So, and how many people know about the Right to Read project? Is there anyone from the community with a Right to Read library?
There's a link to that if you need to check.
It's pretty amazing, and it's an initiative of the Rotary Club. Sorry to push through it. I was wondering if there was a map. I can't remember. I'll just give it a minute on their mandate. So they've brought portables and supported Indigenous communities in BC in a few different ways in terms of providing computer support and collection support and buildings for libraries and internet access. So I'm going to just take a minute to see if I can find either a list or a map. Probably the library's link.
I love how right to read sounds like it's your right to read, but it's spelled W-R-I-T-E. So the educational aspect.
Definitely. Okay, so here are the communities that have right to read libraries.
Okay, let's read through them for the webinar participants. Do you know how to pronounce most of these?
I don't know.
Well, of some of the ones that I do know how to read through, there's Williams Lake, there's Steve, Old Masset, Bella Bella. There's a lot of communities.
Leanuck, Rivers Inlet, Malahat, north of Victoria.
Quatsino.
Lakatla, Lakwaham, the Helms. Fort Rupert in northern Vancouver Island, Dididat.
Nice. Wow, this is a really great program.
Seke Dene and Quasino. And volunteer run, completely volunteer run.
Wow.
So I'm not sure about if Ahousaht and Xwi7xwa. Apologies for the pronunciation. And more communities that have started conversations.
And do you know about the volunteers? Like, are they also librarians who?
Many of them are retired librarians, and the Rotary clubs do a lot of work for the fundraising. So I've noticed a few specific communities Rotary clubs are mentioned. So the First Nations interest group of the BC Libraries Association and a number of students at the library school, the iSchool here at UBC, support the project as well.
That's great. Again, first time I hear about this, it's fantastic. Yeah.
All in all, I think they've been pretty low-key.
Oh. Get louder, librarians, louder!
I have colleagues who are much better at that than me. So there's the link to the BC1 card.
Okay.
And generally the idea is you go to the library, the library that provides service to your municipality or your reserve or your address, and then you can get a card at any other public library in BC.
So it's a card to get other cards. It's not a card that just gives you access. It's not a one card for access to everything.
The way they actually do it changes. So, for example, I've got a Vancouver Public Library card, a Burnaby Library card, and a North Vancouver Library card. And North Vancouver just put my Vancouver Public Library card number into their system. So they could have given me a second card, or they could have used one of the numbers I've already got. And when you move quite a lot, it makes it a lot easier to just have the one to hang on to.
Yeah. Then your wallet would be just loaded with library cards as a librarian.
My dad calls that a busman's holiday. Librarians tend to spend time in libraries on their holidays.
Wow.
So most libraries as well will have information that's pretty easy to find about what they do at individual libraries for interlibrary loans, what the fee structure might be, how long does it usually take, how you request it, that sort of thing. A lot of places you can request it online as well, so you don't have to go talk to anyone to request it. And what information you need. So some places will help you get a book about a topic you're interested in, and UBC will only look for a specific book for you. So you need to know a title and an author to request UBC to bring in a book for you.
So the link I just sent is for the Prince Rupert Library.
And if you find out about a book you're interested in and come into a branch, most of them will have, public and academic libraries will both have information about copyright somewhere visible near the copiers or the scanners, and give you guidelines about what is permissible under Canadian law. So in general, 10% of a book is a general guideline. So if you're interested in more information about that too, we've got a link to UBC's copyright department, copyright unit. It's just copyright.ubc.ca, and the public libraries will have information for you as well. So if you are coming into a branch to copy, that's another way to do research. And here is the Alert Bay library website.
Okay. Face down.
So streaming videos is new for public libraries and relatively new for academic libraries as well. And ebooks. People at the reference desk will help you with setting up ebooks as well, because they're not as straightforward to use as I'd like, for sure.
Yeah.
So, and for people in Alert Bay, here's a list of some of the databases the public library provides for you. Auto Repair, BC Statistics. So for people who are interested in statistics for health research, that's an easy one. The public libraries will have that for you. And UBC and other academic libraries will have a lot more detailed information and can help you working with statistical data as well. Encyclopedias, ClickLaw, and Consumer Health Complete is one of the ones I wanted to point it out from Alert Bay.
Okay.
So after you find a database you're interested in, it will ask you for a login from your library. So for many places it'll be your library card number or part of it, and a password or a PIN or an access code. So that's something to ask about when you get your library card, or to look for that information on your library website.
Okay. So what was the name of the first resource? On health?
The statistics one. Right. BC Statistics.
Okay. Just getting the names of these in case they stand out to anyone.
Sounds good. The newspapers can also be an interesting place to look for health information. It won't give you a lot of information, but it'll give you ideas like who's looking at diabetes or other issues that affect communities. And you can use the researcher's name to find the research results.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Consumer Health Complete.
Yeah.
And Library to Go is one of the ways of getting electronic books and audiobooks. Points to the Past has some historical Indigenous primary sources. And Teen Health and Wellness Database. And one of the things I love about Alert Bay's public library website is they have a link to Outlook Online. So if you find that there isn't a lot of information in your library on something that you're interested in, maybe Indigenous mental health, you can see through Outlook Online what's available through the academic libraries as well as the public libraries. So UBC puts our catalog records for the main, some of the ones that we don't lend aren't there, but a lot of our catalog records are here. So we can see, the first one is Indigenous Cultures and Mental Health Counseling, 4 Directions for Integration with Counseling Psychology. And it says it's a physical book that's in 3 different libraries. And I follow the links, and it gives me more information about the book itself, and it tells me that it's on the Prince Rupert campus of Northwest Community College at the University of Fraser Valley and Yukon College Library, which also tells me I should buy it for UBC. So I like finding things that way too. So
I haven't got the link for this. So through the Alert Bay libraries, where can they click to take a look at that?
I'll back up and we can walk through it again. So this is from the Borrow from Other Libraries page.
And Outlook Online under requesting books to be delivered.
And it's worth finding the link to Outlook Online from your own home public library. Because if you click to it from UBC or from a public library, it gives you just a little bit of different information for borrowing. So for the people at Royal Roads or for people at UBC looking, if you want a copy, then you can request it through Interlibrary loan, since we don't seem to have it yet.
I think I still missed the deleted my bar from the Someone's like, I can't find it.
For that one, the phrase I searched for was Indigenous mental health. So,
okay, that's just
great. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So my main point for all of this is to consider any library in British Columbia your library. And come in and ask people for help and get used to the way each place organizes itself, and the services are a little different at different places. And we'll talk a bit more about special libraries after we get to the health portal. So does anyone have any questions about how you might connect or how the libraries work together? Or are we ready to look at some health information?
Yeah, let's see if anyone has some questions. Feel free to use the chat box for that as well. I like what you said about think of all the BC libraries as your library, because myself as a student here, I've always just considered, oh, well, I'm on campus, I'll use the libraries on campus, and of course the collections are really, really good, so oftentimes I don't even think of going to Vancouver Public Library, but actually there have been times when, for materials for my child, or, and the services that they have there, like it's actually worth thinking about, and so it's a good reminder.
There are just amazing people at the other libraries, and UBC has a pretty big collection, and we're trying to be pretty comprehensive. And we do have a Goodreads collection for leisure reading, but there are things we don't do as well, like kids' materials, although the education library has a
Yeah, they have a lot. Yes, yes, they do have a lot.
They do, and with all the teacher candidates and the people studying children's literature at UBC, there's a pretty high demand for it.
Right,
so
right.
You're sharing it with a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. I think of foreign language materials, for example.
Yes.
There's some for French, for example. There's which is not just a foreign language, but a language of Canada as well. But there are some. You have a great, actually, updated page on the Xwi7xwa website about Aboriginal materials that are in French as well, which is really cool. Yeah.
That's a new area for us, so thank you for pointing that out. We've built a pretty small collection of Aboriginal literature, and most of it is Indigenous writers in English translated into French, and ones that are appropriate for K-12 classes.
Nice. Okay, well, it looks like we don't have questions so far, so thank you.
Great.
Do the access page.
Great. And hopefully I've covered this while most of it, I guess. Well, not open access yet. So yes, when you know the title of an article or a book that you're looking for, go to your closest library and see how you can get your hands on it. As if the library doesn't have a copy, then they'll interlibrary loan articles as well as books. So they'll send you a copy. There are a lot of journals and databases, a lot of research that you can find that are published open to everyone. So there's a few ways to start searching that are just in the open access materials. And it is a little bit more work for that. So I'm going to go back to Xwi7xwa's homepage. Oh, sorry, clicked on the research guides, but no, we do need to go back to Xwi7xwa's homepage for this link.
Here we go. The homepage.
That one. xwi7xwa.library.ubc.ca. And beside the link to our research guides is open content. So there's some databases that we know have a lot of Indigenous content. Some of it's historical. The Native Health database is mainly American material. And the First Nations Periodical Index has older articles from specifically Indigenous periodicals, but it's not being updated anymore, so it doesn't have current information in it. West Beyond the West and Points to the Past are both databases of historical material.
Okay.
And at UBC, we have a lot of digitized material that is open to anyone with internet access. And just going to see if we've got one more link underneath. So if you're on a UBC research guide or any of the other UBC pages, if you see this green icon, it means it's an open database rather than one that UBC is paid for. So if we go back to, or move to the UBC homepage rather than the Xwi7xwa homepage, we have a list of databases at UBC. Library.ubc.ca. Then you click on the tab that says Indexes and Databases. And the advanced search, and I should have double checked. So you can click on, there's a few steps. Open the options from this page. Click Open Access for Everyone, and then search for keywords like health. And it shows you the icons again. So the green one, anyone can access with internet, and the yellow one will ask for a UBC password, a UBC login. So I'm going to search for the health ones, and Medline is the biggest. And Native Health is, again, primarily American and has some really, really interesting resources. Child welfare. A database of toxic chemicals, UN data, free medical journals. And Springer is a really large academic publisher that has some open access materials. Agriculture, food and agriculture, and pub ag, so plants and environmental health. Let's see. So, for people who aren't familiar with it, there's also Google Scholar. So if you search Google Scholar from on campus, it will give you links to material when it's freely available, but also give you information about where to find it through UBC collections.
That's really great.
So if you log in from the UBC Library webpage and then search Google Health, it'll show you e-links as well.
Do you know if other libraries in the province have something similar with Google Scholar?
I think the academic libraries do, but I'm not really sure.
There's a lot of articles and not necessarily books.
And when you find a book you're interested in, or a book chapter, or an article you're interested in, if your library doesn't have it, then that's when you take that citation to your library for interlibrary loan. Let's check back on the PowerPoint. Yep, and interlibrary loan. So the challenge is, how do you find what you want to read? So Google Scholar is one place to look, and if you don't have a UBC library card, you can still search the UBC Library homepage as well. Okay. So I misspelled UBC. They tend to confuse computers when you add extra letters. So, general, if we're looking for, let's look for First Nations wellness and sport, just as a topic, something we're interested in. It'll give us material that are in the collection, that are available online. So it says there's 32,000, and a lot of them won't be relevant, but no one's going to take the time to look at 32,000 things anyway. And it will be more effective if we put double quotes around First Nations. And then we have to tell it that we want all of these words. And if you want help in making your searches more effective in terms of telling the computer things in the way it understands, then there's some tutorials online, but also drop by a reference desk and ask librarians to walk you through how to make dealing with 32,000 things more effective.
Right. Yeah, it's part of, I like the slide here, because part of the battle is for me, like, where do I start? Because it can be so overwhelming, thinking like, wow, there's also thousands and thousands of things I could be reading about, but just finding the first step and identifying your question, what exactly what direction to go in.
Definitely.
I'm saying that as someone who does research, but in general, it can be very overwhelming, I guess.
And it can be more overwhelming when you move to a different topic you're not used to, or a different discipline, or when the terminology shifts. So it's challenging sorting out Canadian Aboriginal health material from Australian Aboriginal health material, and which have shifted to Indigenous and which haven't. And inclusiveness for Métis health information and Inuit health information. Those can all be really challenging in terms of what words to use and how to sort out how many come back.
I think also of the challenge of structuring sort of a research plan too, like when you come across like little hurdles like this, that you're trying to research maybe Indigenous health, but you're brought in, you come across all these different branches and maybe tempting to like go into slightly different direction, but ways to just structure like, okay, I'm going to try to get some information here, and then any tips on that sort of thing, or is that something like on a case-by-case basis, and people can come and ask a librarian and try to see, like, and I'm only asking also because one thing I'm learning about right now is researching genealogy and family history, for example, and that's one thing where you open one thing and it's just like, wow, all these other directions, and you have all these family branches, and you can go all the way that way and get into the archives and the images, or you could, so it can be really overwhelming, and sometimes you're like, I just want to just drop this for a minute, walk away from it, and come back to it later. Yeah,
definitely. There's a lot of really good ways to work with it, and sometimes walking away for a while is a really productive thing to do too.
To refocus.
Definitely, and to absorb and reflect on the unexpected. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do in terms of research strategies and lifelong learning is to take a minute before you start searching and write out what you expect to find, and write a list of the search terms that you think will be the most effective. Spend some time searching, and then take some time to say, well, what did I expect that wasn't there? And what showed up that I didn't expect? So for people working with youth, for example, it may find that you're getting a lot of material from education where you expected a lot from health. And what that signals to me in terms of search strategies is probably health uses different terms for the concept you're looking for. And the libraries and databases sometimes really don't help you. So a while ago it was almost impossible to find anything that was described as resilience, youth resilience. So the people were writing about it and people were interested in it, but the libraries were putting it in categories like troubled youth. So people who are interested in how people were coping with problematic circumstances were focusing on the circumstances rather than the strengths of dealing with it. So the reflecting on what you're finding gives you cues to start pulling different words from different places and to start looking maybe in different databases. So maybe the databases that I was using didn't have a lot of material from healthcare journals as well. So there's a lot of things to look at to try and make sense of it. And I really recommend that people write down search terms and write down strategies and where you look.
And map out what they're doing as they go.
That's right.
That's a good strategy.
It may be that a couple weeks into your search you find a really good search term you haven't been using. So you can go back to the places you looked early on and redo your searches, and you might get completely different information.
Great tips, thank you.
Very welcome. And there's a Ask Away service for academic libraries as well, for chat-based library help. You can email libraries, give us a call and drop by, and we'll walk you through some of these strategies. So, and how are we doing for time?
Well, we've got at least 15 to 20 minutes more if you like, and then we can
That sounds good.
give 15 minutes to questions after that if you like.
That sounds
Or we can end at
great.
any time. What do you like? Yeah.
What I'll do then is I'll go to some of the really interesting health-specific spots and show people just the amount of information out there, and look forward to questions. So one of my colleagues, Dean, at the UBC Hospital Libraries, coordinates and manages this wiki. So the HL Wiki International is developed for health librarians, and there's a lot of things that are useful for healthcare practitioners as well, for clinical information or for patient information and for research. So it's written to help librarians, so the terminology may not be intuitive. And I've started with the Aboriginal health page. So one of the things that I'm gonna go back to the front page for a minute. So there's I've forgotten the numbers. Oh, here it is. In about 11 years, there have been over 23 million hits on this wiki.
Wow.
So there's, I think, 1 million a year. Apologies, Dean, I've completely forgotten. And Dean told me that it's the Aboriginal health part of the wiki that gets the most hits.
Wow.
And what that means to Dean, and makes perfect sense to me, is that this is the area of health information that is the least consistent and the least easy to use. So when health librarians, when people whose absolute area of expertise is finding health information, is looking for help to find Aboriginal material the most, that's telling me that our databases and our systems and our library structures aren't being as helpful as they should be. So for people who aren't familiar with libraries and databases and advanced searches, it's all that much more complicated. So there's a lot of different areas of information, including key databases and websites, and a list of important journals. Let's see if there's... So this one is freely available, so this isn't a subscription. And I will look for a couple more links to help people find open source journals and databases as well. I think it's Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ, should give us a list that'll help find health information that's open, and primarily academic journals that don't have the licensing restrictions, that don't cost.
This is a website, the DOAJ?
We can find it from the library website, from the indexes and databases. It's probably the fastest. So back to library.ubc.ca, we'll just use this to find the links. So if following this path is useful, great. Otherwise, we'll just get you the link to the website itself. Directory of Open Access Journals. Here. Yeah. doaj.org.
Okay.
And one of the things that I love about here is that you can search in the articles rather than just the description of the journals.
Oh, good. That really helps.
So,
Appreciate that.
over 450 for Aboriginal health. And we could add more specific words. So 32 for youth specific. So the great thing about these ones is that you don't have to look at Interlibrary alone. It's just there to read. I'm going to close those and go back to the Health Wiki. So there's a lot of databases and journals here to explore. And for anyone who's used the NAHO, National Aboriginal Health Organization website, it was supposed to close. It was supposed to be gone at the beginning of this year. And they've got some really wonderful resources. When I checked in January, this was giving me an error message, so I couldn't see any of this. So somehow someone's provided more access. And it's also been archived, so that's another thing libraries do. So there's a link to a copy of this website on the Internet Archive. And we've got research guides that point both to this site and to the Internet Archive version. So nothing's been added to this website in about 5 years.
Okay.
But one of the things on it that I do want to point out for researchers is their so they've got some videos that are great, and their Journal of Aboriginal Health, and quite a few different topics. And for a lot of the students I work with, they use the ethics documents from the NAHO website. The principles of ownership, control, access, and possession is so important in health research. So some of the community people that have come to look for information also use the NAHO website to give information to outside researchers that they work with.
Wow, so many great resources.
There is a lot of information out there. So, hello, Vancouver Island University. This is a research guide. So, UBC, UNBC, all of the colleges and universities that I've looked at lately has research guides for health and for Aboriginal resources and Aboriginal studies, and sometimes there's one that are focused on Aboriginal health specifically. UBC has one for Aboriginal pharmacy and Aboriginal midwifery as well. A lot of the university research guides will have resources that aren't open access and that you won't be able to search in unless you come to the site. And for many of them, apologies, I picked a wrong example via you. We've got broken links on our research guides that I need to update too. So health and wellness. And let's open up WXWA's research guides.
Go find that. County's Library.
So we're sending that link out as well.
Yeah, let me type it out.
So we have our first set of guides on this page is ones that we mainly organize at WXWA, and then we link to ones that other librarians at UBC, other branches, organize. So I'm going to go to my friend Ursula's guide on Aboriginal health as well.
Okay. I'm just going to test this, make sure I got it. It's kind of a long link that I typed out.
It is. There's my friend Ursula.
Hi, Ursula. I met her.
Oh, that's awesome. Ursula's amazing.
Yes.
So PubMed is the same one from the Health Wiki, open access and native health database as well. And iPortal is organized out of the University of Saskatchewan. And okay, I'm going to go ahead and log in. So if you go to it from the University of Saskatchewan, it's, please don't save my password. You can look at the citations, and what, if you've got a UBC password, it gives you additionally is a more direct link. So I've clicked on the health category, and I'm going to have a look at nutrition. And it has
Give me
a
one
lot.
moment.
Absolutely.
Pull it up for you.
That sounds good. So iportal.usask.ca.
Let me just go back to WXWA first. Here. Let's just do that.
Sounds good. So if you go to it through UBC, it'll ask for your password, because we've coordinated with the IT at USASC, so it says how to find a copy from UBC. So if you go to it directly from USASC, just to the iportal.usask.ca, the UBC e-link won't show up, but you won't have to log in to look at it. The iPortal itself is completely open. The challenge is when you're linking to something that either University of Saskatchewan or UBC pays for. So if you aren't UBC or University of Saskatchewan, then some of these will be open, available right over the web, and the other ones request through Interlibrary loan.
Okay. Okay.
So a citation like this, let's go to the one up above it, from Current Anthropology. That's from 1997, so it's probably not as useful. The Xwi7xwa Review, I don't see the year for that offhand.
You were looking under
Health and then Nutrition.
in nutrition.
And from a number of sites, I don't see it on here, you can say that you want the newest stuff to come up at the top. So one of the things I love too is they have theses, so a lot of theses are freely available as well. So they're a really good way of getting a good bibliography. A lot of good starting places. So it looks like they're organized alphabetically by title here.
That's great. Do you think this thesis compilation is as extensive as maybe on the sites that are? What is the database that focuses on just theses and dissertations?
ProQuest is a company that has it. For a few different reasons, UBC isn't sending its theses and dissertations to ProQuest now, so it's less complete that way. And part of that is that UBC has all of the PhD dissertations, with a few exceptions, completely freely available online. So that's in the open collections that we saw from the Xwi7xwa Open Guide. There's a lot of really fantastic Indigenous education theses and databases in there, or theses and dissertations.
In Circle.
That's right. Circle is the name of UBC's. They call it institutional repositories. So our memory of the work we've done at UBC. I would have guessed that they would be in ProQuest and in Circle. I didn't know it wouldn't be showing up in those. A lot of those things are not self-explanatory or intuitive. So there's no reason for you to know what we're doing, because we're not telling you. Well, the information is there. The information is there, but you have to know to ask, or you have to stumble upon it. And one of the ways we try and communicate that is with the research guides. So if we go back to one of Xwi7xwa's other guides, for a lot of them, First Nations and Indigenous Studies is our broadest guide. So it has information about core journals and primary sources, newspapers, and theses and dissertations. So we provide some more information here. So where's the theses and dissertations? Under. So the address for this guide is guides.library.ubc.ca/Aboriginal Studies. So that's what you need to get to the homepage, and then you can look for the specific types of information along the side navigation bar. And for searching, we've got some resources on using terminology from different disciplines and different key resources. How are you feeling out there? How's everyone doing? I hope this information is useful, and I'm learning a lot as we go. I hope it's also very informative for you. And another part I really want to make sure that people know about from the Health Librarians Wiki is the consumer information. So let's have a look at the list of portals from the Health Library Wiki. So HLWIKI, hlwiki.slice.ubc.ca. Okay, and list of the Canadian Consumer Health Information Portal. So there's medical education as well. Let's start with Canadian Consumer Portal. So there's a description of it, and what I love is find a health library near you. And sorry, I'm clicking through a little quickly. Yep, lost me. Understandably. Consumer Health Libraries in Canada.
This is the same one?
Okay. One link further, so from...
Okay. And that one. Okay. There we go.
Right. And BC Health Library.
Which one are we looking at now?
The health libraries for BC.
All right. Okay, I'll send everyone that link. Great.
And I'm going to go to the Vancouver Public Library. Vancouver VPL.ca. And look for their guide for health. So I think the link for it is in the list, but I don't think I've opened it yet. So vpl.ca, and then search the VPL website for health and wellness. So Medline Plus again is the one really large database with information about articles and some articles. And the health information guide. So as well as finding books in the public library about medicine and about health and about wellness. There's a lot of online resources that are open, so a lot of people are more familiar with HealthLink BC and the phone line to talk to a nurse, and the lab tests online is a completely open website. So you can find out if you've been asked to go to a lab to get a specific test, or if you're wanting to know about different kinds of tests. You can look for them by name, and you can find out what tests are associated for different conditions. So what are the tests for Lyme disease? It gives you the medical terminology and how recent the information was updated. Information about Lyme disease itself and the tests for it. So for practitioners, there's a lot of really detailed information here. So this is linked from a lot of health portals. And the VPL, probably because I'm more familiar with Vancouver libraries, is usually one of the ones that I show people.
Well, these are really great resources.
There's a lot to explore in the portals and the research guides.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the research guides. I'm going to go back and read some myself. Some good strategies and tips and resources. And
Definitely.
Yeah, excellent. I'm getting a lot of thank yous for this information, and it's so helpful. They appreciate it so much. People wanting to put forward what they've learned to practice. So.
And in general, patient education or patient information are also really useful search terms. And consumer health is I think the standard terms that a lot of libraries use, and I think that may come from the publishers.
Okay.
So consumer health is something to look for. If you're looking for information that doesn't need as much medical training to understand it.
Right, more lay person language.
Yeah.
It's less jargony.
Yeah.
It's my made up word, jargony.
Jargony is a very effective word. Yeah. So there are many, many more trails to follow, but this feels like a good time to open up to questions.
Yeah. Would anyone like to ask questions, make comments?
Suggest other resources?
Thank you, Kim.
You're very welcome. I imagine lots of people have their favorites.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what everyone's background is, to what is drawing them to the information. If they're joining us as a practitioner, or if they've got some personal research they're doing.
And because this was sort of the introductory, the first time I've connected with the Learning Circle about this, it's been pretty general. And for people who are looking for advanced research strategies, or working with research teams and are looking at different methodology, or you're already in complex research project, there's a lot of resources on the Health Librarians database for different strategies and different approaches to research. Systematic reviews is a type of research. Evidence-based health, evidence-based librarianship are different ways that connect what research other people have done with healthcare that people are, with the work of trying to find the best information to provide the best healthcare.
Nice. Well, it looks like we have mostly compliments and no questions. So with that, I'd like to maybe we should close the session and say thank you, and thanks to all the participants, and thank you, Kim, for joining us. This was a really enriching session. I really appreciate you coming here today. This is also my very last session with the UBC Learning Circle, and I wanted to thank you for letting me serve your community and do a bit of education coordination work and facilitation for the UBC Learning Circle. It's been a really, really enjoyable past 6 months. And next for me is completing my PhD thesis, and I'll be visiting Kim for research tips and for wonderful advice and resources. Thanks so much. I also wanted to thank the UBC Learning Circle team, Javier Rivera, who is here working hard to support the session today. We have Stefan Mladenovic, who is our IT person at the School of Population and Public Health, who is always there to help us. David Anderson at the First Nations Health Authority, thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for joining the UBC Learning Circle. Aloha, bye.